All right, class, good evening. We are back at it once again. We are on play 5 and play 10 tonight. A little bit of housekeeping real quick. I've kind of alluded to it in a few of our lectures here that I am in the position of changing jobs. Everything was finalized. My first official day actually was today. I am now over at General Hotel Corporations, which is the management owner group of the Crown Plaza downtown. I am now a regional director of sales in my new role. I thought some things were going to change. They're not. My cell phone number will now be my office number. So again, anytime you want to get a hold of me, a few of you guys have texted me. That's fantastic. Call me, what have you. Email doesn't change. Continue to use the IUPUI email. In a pinch, if you need to reach me before that, my General Hotels email is jdebrosse, my last name, DEBROSSE, at genhotels with an S.com. So now you have two different emails to reach me at. Again, continue to use my cell phone. That is the best way to reach me in a pinch. So, a couple other things. We're doing play 5 and 10 tonight. Now, from here on, we're going to kind of skip around. As I was reading through the book last year, I realized that some of these chapters I thought tied better together, even though they weren't in sequential order, if you will. So that's why we're kind of skipping around, because I think that some of these entities really tie well together. So that's kind of where we're going there. Your discussions, fantastic job so far. The first two looked really good. Please don't forget, you have to comment on two of your classmates' discussions. A few of you guys have lost points kind of needlessly when you had great discussion points but didn't go back and comment on your classmates. So don't forget those things. Case studies are in. I'll start grading those this week. My hope is to have everything done before the end of the week. And then don't forget, obviously, our first exam, I believe, is July 17th. Check the syllabus to make sure I have that right, but that should be taking us into next week. So, again, so far, so good. I love what I'm seeing from you guys. The work really looks good. You're reading the chapters. You're getting the details we want you to have. So, again, very impressed so far with what I'm seeing from you guys. Let's hop into it. Play 5, building a team, planning for the event. We're going to talk about kind of how we have our objectives, we have our ideas. Now we got to get into the finite points and the details of how we're going to reach those objectives. So the book, again, does a fantastic job of really laying this out in really, really good detail. Talking about identifying your management tasks. What is it going to take to get through each one? What do we need to do? What are our steps? As we're looking at our objectives, what are each of our steps? Okay, so that's the first part. Then we're going to analyze each of those steps or those tasks to discern what the decisions and the activities are that are going to precede them before we can actually say, yeah, this is done. Yeah, we're ready to do this. And then we're going to talk about deadlines. Guys, when it comes to events, deadlines are incredibly important. And I know that for some of you that may sound really redundant and maybe kind of stupid, but I think planners sometimes just think, okay, well, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. If you don't set hard and fast goal or deadlines for when things are going to be done, it becomes almost a backwards domino effect. If this isn't done, well, then this can't be done, and then that can't be done. And all of a sudden, as you're realizing you're getting closer and closer to an event, you've got 4 or 5 steps that need to be taken before maybe this final step is accomplished. So we set these deadlines, and you want to give yourself enough time. Remember, we talk about this being events are fluid. Things are going to change. We're going to come across problems we didn't realize we had. We're going to come across benefits maybe we want to take advantage of that we didn't realize we would have the opportunity to. So give yourself time. You never want a deadline that if it's due on the 12th, the deadline shouldn't be the 11th, okay? The deadline should be the 1st, knowing that, okay, we got here. Did something change? Okay, I got 3 more days. Something change again? I got 2 more days. Give yourself time. Lay it out so that you can adjust, fluid again, that these events are, and make sure that that's ready by the deadline, okay? So one thing, again, I always refer back to the book, especially the figure that they use. Figure 5.1 lays out those elementary tasks, okay, guys? And again, it's a beginning. You may end up having more, you may end up having less, depending upon what your event is. But again, the figures they use for you guys, again, the figures is what we call them because that's the picture. But again, this area, what they put in this book really do lay out and define what each one of these chapters is about and where you should focus your attention. Look these over. Know these. Again, this book is something that I think most of you, if this is the field you're going to go into, refer back to this. This is a reference guide for you now. Okay, if this is the area, this is where your career takes you, you want this book. And again, you're going to go back to this and say, I got to plan this event. Let's go back and look at those elementary tasks. How many of them fit into the event I'm planning? Oh, good, they do. Now I can begin to lay out my map, again, my roadmap, if you will, to what's going to get me to these successful events. We look at figure 5.2 as you're assigning the details in your deadline. I'm sorry, not details. Let me back up. We got the elementary tasks. Now you need to assign your deadlines and your start dates. And remember, guys, you won't start everything at once because some of these are dependent upon the ones above them. So again, if A has to be done before B, I can't have the start date for B be prior to the deadline of A. I know some of this makes, obviously it's very basic and simple, but you would be surprised as planners go into things, those who don't have a lot of experience or don't think things out, you'll realize all of a sudden things can get very screwy very fast. So again, great example of how to lay out how one will affect the other and making sure that everything ties together. Okay, we go into figure 5.4. They're going to expand on the elementary tasks with really what I would call action steps. Okay, perfect example. You need to print the invitations. Well, you need to identify the number of invitations required. Sounds kind of basic, but how does that happen? Well, we have to generate and finalize the mailing list. We have to decide who our VIPs are. Are they getting special invites or the normal invites? Are those hand delivered or are those going to be mailed? Everything begins to affect your timeline. Okay, so again, you have your tasks. We begin to expand on them. We begin to get our action steps in there. Okay, and then one of the last things you're going to do is you're going to start putting your calendar together of critical dates. In other words, what has to be done by certain dates. And I'll give you a perfect example. We're mailing season tickets out, let's say October 31st. Okay, they've got to be to the printer because I know I need a 2-week window to get them printed. So therefore, if I want to mail them on the 31st, they've got to be done, and so I can stuff them. Okay, that's a week-long process. Back that up. So now I have to have the design and it be back. I'm sorry, I have to have them printed and back in my hands by the 24th. Okay, now I need 2 weeks to get them printed, which means I've got to go to the printer then on the 10th. And you guys are beginning to see how those critical dates all lined up. So that means the design has to be to the printer, ready to go, totally approved by the 10th. So they have 2 weeks. And again, all of this, guys, it's not just one task. It could be everything. Do you need permits to have parking? How long does that take? Who does it have to go through? Who has to sign it? I need to make sure I have insurance for my venue. Okay, when do they need the insurance policy? How long does it take them to write it? How is it being underwritten? How are we paying for it? I begin to back everything up. So, guys, we talk about Super Bowl. That's always a fun one to use. That is such a massive entity. And again, what a lot of us don't understand is those events take 3, 4, 5 years to plan because, again, we may see the game on TV, but you guys know here, those of you who've been in Indianapolis when we had the Super Bowl, I think it was almost 5 years ago now, what went into that? You had your side events all over the place. You had hotel needs. You had the event. You had the game itself, which almost becomes secondary. That's the easy part. It's everything that goes on around it that all of a sudden these deadlines become, again, your critical deadlines. So that's a massive picture. Drill it down. Think smaller. Again, I always go back to think about having a baseball tournament. Say you're the Horizon League, and what's a good example of who's still in the Horizon League? Green Bay. Wisconsin Green Bay is in the Horizon League. They want to host the baseball championships. Okay? Well, how do we begin to back things up? Is this a bid process where the school who's willing to invest the most is going to get it? Does my team have to finish in the top 3? Do they have to be the number 1 seed? Obviously, once all that's laid out and you know that you've got it, how do we begin to back things up? Okay? What are those critical dates? We know that X amount of teams are coming by this date. We know our marketing has to go into effect on this date, but we need design work. We need to know the team's names. We won't know the team's names until, maybe they take everybody. So maybe that's an easy one. We just go ahead and lay everybody in there. Or if it's like the Big East tournament, I think volleyball only takes the top 6 or 8 teams, even though there are 10 teams in the Big East. So you can't start promoting the tournament until you know who's coming. Well, that makes for some crazy deadlines, okay? Because you can go into the last week of the season and realize, there's a 4-way tie for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th spot, and you're only taking the top 6. So there's 4 possible teams that could win the 6th seed, if you will. Okay, we got to hold off on our marketing then until we know. We got to make sure we have a marketing company that says, yes, I can turn that around in under 2 days. So you can start getting your marketing materials out because you're going to have a week to promote this as far as, what teams are coming. So you guys, these deadlines become very, very critical. And again, the idea of sitting down and planning out your tasks, knowing your event, knowing what concerns you're going to have, where your roadblocks are. Again, this is, yeah, it's not, you don't just jump in and do it. You really do want to do a lot of analysis before you actually get into the actual hands-on how we're going to do it, because otherwise you're going to be wasting a ton of time and you'll be causing yourself a lot of stress in a lot of regards. So we've kind of got our critical dates laid out. We know when things are going to happen. We have an idea of what the tasks are that lead to getting those critical steps done. Now, who's going to do it? Okay? And this becomes incredibly important. When you're building your support organization, okay, it's going to be a combination of different things. And again, the book talks, there's a great example in the book about one of the authors talks about talking to a group that was doing some protesting, and he asked who was in charge, and he said, we're all in charge. In a sporting event, in most event planning, that is not the case. There typically is, if not one person in charge, one committee, one group. There's somebody where, I hate to say it, the buck stops here, right? They make the final call. Yes, we're going to go that route. No, it's too expensive. We can't do it that way. There's always one person that everything flows up to and then flows back down. That's where the marching orders come from. So as you're putting together your support organization, you want to have an understanding of what are your needs, okay? Do you have a director over certain elements of your event? This person is running the marketing. Still ratcheting up maybe to the overall director of the event, but this person is in charge of marketing, operations, permits, crowd control. And what are those people? Are they volunteers? They might be. If you're working at a smaller level, it's not a full paid position. Is it going to be a part-time, somebody be pulled from the community who has experience in that? Is it a freelance? Someone who obviously goes around and works on different committees or has a sports background and can be brought in for a certain amount of time, and then when the event's over, they go on their merry way. It's going to be an incredible combination. And again, we go back to looking at figure 510. Does a great job of kind of laying out, again, just an idea of areas you may need, number one, areas you may need, but then again, is it a group of 10 under each area with one director, if you will? Is it a one-person job where, okay, Jim, you're the one doing all operations, and I'm coming to you and you're handling all of it? Do we have volunteers that are taking place? Are they part of a committee, where decisions are being made? Are they just given their marching orders and they're volunteers that they're going to show up and do the event the day of, and that is their role? Again, do you go through certain agencies and say, you know what, we need experts in this particular field? The perfect example would be security. Do you go to a security company and say, okay, you're my liaison for security, and I do want you as my point person in on these meetings to make sure that the things we're asking our security personnel to do is within their abilities and within the skills that they have. And at that point, then, you're going to go back and say, okay, I need 25 security guards for this event. And again, that agency is going to take care of all that security. So you're going to see a plethora of people in and out of an organization when it comes to these sports events in what their expertise are. Okay, again, you look at something like a sports corp. Sports corp is going to work 10,000 feet up. These guys are organizing. These guys are reaching out to community leaders. They're putting together the big picture. And then they're going to go down and really drill down and say, where do we need volunteers? Do we need greeters at the airport? Do we need ticket takers at this event? Do we need team hosts? Do we pull from the hotels that are hosting all of our teams and they're involved? So again, your committees and how your volunteers all work out is going to depend upon the event you have. The book does a fantastic job of laying out where you can tap into the different skill sets of your community, of your volunteer base, and again, from your organization as a whole. So again, guys, I know I hit on it a lot. Read these chapters. They are absolutely phenomenal. They really do a fantastic job of laying out all the elements that you need for this particular play. In this case, we're talking about building a team and planning for the event. Okay, so that's chapter 5. And I know, I hope you guys are realizing I'm trying to get a little briefer in these lectures. The idea is just to give you a quick overview. Hey, these are some of the hot items you guys want to make sure you know. And again, obviously, the onus is on you guys to really dig deep into the book. All right, so quick drink. All right, into play 10. Like I said, we are going to skip around a little bit now. So really watch the syllabus to make sure you're reading the right chapters, or as we call them, the right plays. So we get into chapter 10. Chapter 10 talks about community involvement. And we've touched on this a little bit in some earlier chapters. It is so key when possible, to have the buy-in of your community. And guys, some of it is common sense. I mean, obviously, if you are going to take over a community and you need facilities and you need volunteers and you are going to bring a group of people that are going to, and this is where I'm going to defer back to figure 10.1 because it really lays out what the benefits are to a community and why some communities might balk on the idea of having your event in their town. You know, from a business standpoint, a lot of times when we have events, and again, you can think big and small. If you're Wisconsin Green Bay and you're hosting the Horizon League men's basketball tournament, well, I'm bringing in anywhere between maybe 10 and 30,000 fans. I'm bringing in the teams, the cheerleaders, the administrators, the bands, the students. How does that affect my community? Well, from a business leader standpoint, I might say, hey, this is a revenue stream. You know, here's a week in December, or I'm sorry, in January, March, that we're typically dead. Yet because we have the men's basketball championship, or maybe in conjunction with the women's basketball championship, we've got this week-long plethora of people coming in during a dead week. Well, I'm excited. As a businessman, I think this is an opportunity for me to make revenue during a time period where I typically am dead. We're going to embrace this, you know, we're going to decorate the restaurant. We're going to make sure that we have signs out, that we show that we're supporting this event because we want those people to come to us and spend their money. Now, that makes sense, okay? There are a number of other things. Like I said, figure 10.1 does a fantastic job of kind of pointing out why a community would embrace these events, you know, whether it is the self-image. Again, why did Indianapolis win the Super Bowl? Well, by God, we want to show the world that we're able to put on major events and do it well. Because the idea is this is the biggest form of advertising the city of Indianapolis can put on. We're taking one of the number one events in the world and saying we can knock it out of the ballpark. The hope is then other events will see that and go, ooh, we hadn't thought of it in Indianapolis, but by God, they crushed the Super Bowl. Maybe we should bring the Democratic National Party, the Republican National Convention. Maybe the NRA should come back multiple years. Maybe the Pan Am Games look at us again. Maybe it's the Olympic bid. I mean, that's kind of the next step up from a sports platform. You know, can Indianapolis handle something like that? So, again, you can see why a city might want it, okay? Again, we talked about revenue for different businesses. But why would a city not want it? Well, if I live in that city and I enjoy my peaceful life or my normalcy, if you will, normalcy, however you want to pronounce that, a big event can change things. My drive to work just got a half an hour longer because there's 20,000 more people in town. You know, when Gen Con comes to downtown Indianapolis and I working in downtown, I can't get lunch anywhere. There are lines out the door. Maybe I don't quite understand or believe in what the Gen Conners do. Now, let me back up and say, I do enjoy those guys and I play my own fair share of games. But any of you who've been downtown during Gen Con know that's a different element. I got guys dressed as Pikachu. I got guys dressed in Star Trek outfits and Star Wars and any video game you can imagine. They're walking around with battle axes and shields and they're dressed up in outfits, and that might kind of bother me a little bit. So I don't know if I want my community to host this one. There's noise, there's traffic, there's longer lines. You know, do they take care of our city? Do they come in and trash the place? And all of a sudden there's more damage and there's trash everywhere. All of this can play into the support you get from a community. So obviously, how do we as an event come in and say, hey, we want this to be embraced? Because if it's embraced, we then know that the participants and those who are attending the event will talk about what a great experience it was. Again, the Super Bowl from that standpoint was phenomenal for Indianapolis. One of the questions I got asked when I was at the hotel was, are you guys always this nice? Or are you just putting this on because we're here? And we had to convince people that no, this is the way we always are. This is how, you know, whether it was a Super Bowl or whether it was CSX coming in to have a 20-person meeting, this is how we treat people, okay? Well, those people involved there for the event were just overwhelmed by our hospitality, by the fact that we were service-oriented and wanted to make their experience, even though technically we had nothing to do with the event, but they're they're our guest, you're in our city, and we have a pride about us. We want this to be a phenomenal experience for you. And when you can get a community to do that, now the participants in your event are like, we've got to go back there. We were embraced. The restaurants decorated things. I always tell a story, and I know I sometimes jump in tangents, guys, so I apologize. But when I was at Butler, and one of the first times we went to the NCAA tournament, we went down into down in North Carolina, and when we got to our hotel, and we were kind of on the outskirts, we weren't in the downtown area. I want to say we were playing at Wake Forest was the host site, but we're kind of out more not in the sticks, but out in the kind of the surrounding smaller suburbs, if you will. We walked into our hotel. Every single one of the front desk agents had Butler gear on. They had banners up that said "Welcome Bulldogs." Everything was blue and white. We went into the restaurant. They had changed all the menu items to have something to do with university. Bulldog Bite pretzel bites. Butler Blue's favorite blue martini. I mean, everything was changed. You talk about feeling fully embraced, and we could tell they were excited to have us. We were obviously thrilled to be here because in that case, I want to say that was our first trip to the NCAA tournament in 35 years. So our fan base was on cloud nine. Then to walk into some place and realize that they were fully embracing us and that this was our place for 2 days. This was a Butler headquarters. Our fans just could not, when we got to go the following year, could not book fast enough to realize if that's the kind of event the NCAA puts on, we want to be a part of it. We could not have felt more special. And to give you the flip-flop, the following year, we had to go to Kansas City. And for those of you from that city, I apologize for having to badmouth your city. It was the exact opposite. This hotel had no banner up even saying welcome to the NCAA tournament. They could have cared less that we were there. They actually refused to let the local Indianapolis media into the hotel to do interviews with our fans because that year we actually won our first game since 1962. And of course the fan base was just going crazy. They wouldn't let us do interviews in the hotel. They almost did everything they could to make the experience a bad one. And to this day, I can't figure out, having now worked in the hotel industry for over 10 years, I do not know what they were thinking. Because not only did our athletic director just rip them in a letter to their general manager as well as the organizers for the NCAA, it went all over. I mean, our fans wrote letters. It was awful. So guys, the community can make or break you. So how do we as an event get into the community and make sure that this is what they want? Well, again, you've got gatekeepers to a community, and you guys are going to know most of them. Obviously, your government agencies. You want the local government on board, okay? Because they're going to hear a lot of the complaints if something is not going to go well. Your community leaders. This could be, most likely, your civic leaders, okay? Churches, service organizations, you name it. Business leaders. We want them on board. Most of them understand that if you can show them that, look, this event is going to bring you revenue. That is why they exist, to obviously make money, okay? So if we can show them, hey, this is an event that's going to bring revenue to you, revenue that you can spend on your employees, obviously revenue that you'll keep yourself. They usually want to buy in. They want to be a part of that, okay? And obviously, from a sports side, if we're bringing in a baseball tournament, what sports organizations should we go after? If a college baseball tournament was coming to Zionsville, which is where I live, we would want to go after the Zionsville Baseball Club. We want to go after Zionsville Little League. We want to go after the Boys and Girls Club T-Ball Association. We want all those people on board, mainly because they're going to have the passion for it. We know they're going to want to be there. They're going to want to see it. So that's going to make our event even stronger. But again, all those people who are part of those organizations have other ties to the community that hopefully we can have them buy in, and they can help the rest of the community buy in. So obviously Chamber of Commerce is another one. Any corporate buy-in that you're going to get, it's going to start with the chamber. It's going to start with your business leaders. That's where you want to make sure you've got them involved. And again, we kind of talked a little bit, restaurants. If you can get the restaurants to really, because now we're going flip-flop. Now we're going to say, okay, we've got them to buy in. Okay, now we want them to show that buy-in. Okay, and the one example I always love is talking about buy-in by a restaurant. Downtown at Rock Bottom. It's Rock Bottom. Yeah, Rock Bottom. They have, their ownership is huge into the gaming scene. They will change not only their entire menu, they also hang all these banners. And usually it's a guy, I think it's his favorite games, and most of them are role player games. But that whole restaurant changes decor for the week of Gen Con. And I mean, you can't get a seat in there. They fully embrace the event. They've made themselves part of the event, really. And now these attendees make a point of staying with them because they realize not only are they welcome here, but these guys get them. And they want to be someplace that gets them. Much like that hotel did for us in North Carolina when I was with Butler. We wanted to be there. We weren't going to go anywhere else. We had a home. We're going to eat in their restaurant, we're going to drink in their bar, and we're going to hang out in their lobby because they embraced us and made us feel like home. So again, you definitely want that from the buy-in from your community, from the corporations in that community. Now, the other thing this book talks about is your organizing a host committees. This is where, okay, once again, you're going to need help. You can't just go out and talk to every single restaurant, every single hotel, every single business. But if we get certain leaders from the community, we organize a host committee, then now they can be the voice of our event. They're going to the Chamber of Commerce and making sure all the members know what's going on. They're going to the government meeting on traffic and making sure that the police department as well as any other civic service groups are aware that we're going to have some congestion issues. How can we make sure we're ahead of this? Okay, because they don't want a bad impact on the community. They want it to be a great impact because they want to be invited back on a regular basis. So again, these local host committees are essential because they know their community. They know who the leaders are. They know who the movers and shakers are. They know who's going to be interested in whatever it is that your event is about. And they're going to be your liaison to the important people of that community. It is essential that you have them involved. And they are going to play a huge element in the success and failure of your events. Especially at a small, well, I shouldn't even say especially at a smaller level. At a giant level, when you talk about NCAAs and Final Fours and USA Gymnastics going in someplace, USA Volleyball coming in for 2 weeks in Indianapolis, you had to have the community's buy-in because there was such an effect it was going to have. You needed to make sure that was smooth. You needed to make sure that it was a win. We go back to this all the time. A win-win-win. It was a win for the community. It was a win for us as the event organizers, and it was a win for our for our participants. And if you can get that triangle going, you will have a successful event. There's no doubt in my mind. So guys, again, really look into how they tap into the community and where you can find your resources to make the event planning an easier setup for you guys. Again, you don't want to have to go to every single one of the restaurants in town. Go to the restaurant association. Trust me, every city has them. And say, hey, I need from you, can you get this information out to everybody? Can you let them know about these dates? Can you let them know that where this hotel is right next to this fan base, and we think that you ought to really play up the idea that you're the home of the Loyola Ramblers, and here's their school colors, here's some information on them. If you fully embrace that, we think we'll bring you X amount of business because their hotel is right next to that restaurant. Those kind of things, guys, are what make these events special. So again, think outside the box. Don't just think about, I've got to have a basketball court, a clock, someone to run the timer, and be done with it. There's so much more into it, okay? We're looking at all the peripheral, okay? When you guys start organizing events of this level, it's not, trust me, you got to worry about the game and the game day experience and all that kind of stuff, but there's so much more that goes on. This community involvement makes your life a whole lot easier. Get to know this chapter. Get to know it very, very well. It will come back and help you time and time again, okay? So, hey, play 5 and 10 are done. Again, I'll start grading the last assignment this week. Should have it done by Friday. Don't forget, you've got exam next week. We've got discussion number 3 coming up. Any questions, you guys know you have my cell phone number, 317-289-2363. Please, again, if you have a question, call me, text me, reach out to me. Happy to answer it. Guys, we're about halfway through. So I hope you're enjoying the class. Love to hear feedback. If there's things I can do better for you guys. If these are too wordy, too long, I'm looking right now, I'm almost going to have this under half an hour. If that's too much, if I need to be faster with this, let me know, guys. The idea is to make this a resource for you to get through the book and succeed in this class. All right? Best of luck. Have a great week. Look forward to talking to you guys next week.